People move here to Tampa every single day from New York. People move to Florida from New York every single day. Let's talk about why they do it, some of the factors involved, and then let's do a kind of overall comparison, cost of living, Florida versus New York. Here we go. I'm Sam, and this is the Living in Tampa channel. We make these videos about what it's like to live and move to Tampa. Today we're going to talk a little broader. We're going to talk Florida overall, and we'll get into Tampa versus a very specific area in New York at the end. We are a team of realtors here in the Tampa area, and we would love a chance to earn your real estate business in Florida. Give us a call, text, or email anytime, and we'd love to see how we can help you. Oftentimes, when anyone's buying a house in the Tampa area, any of our clients, anybody we talk to, they just talk about how New Yorkers and Californians are moving here like crazy. Most of the real estate transactions in the Tampa area are just people moving around the Tampa area. Next is people moving around Central Florida. So maybe they're moving from Orlando to Tampa or Lakeland to Tampa. And then third on that list is people moving from New York to Tampa. So it is high on the list, it is for sure. It's not the number one influx of people though. And why do New Yorkers move here, specifically here? I mean, there's specific factors, they probably know somebody here first of all, but there's specific factors like weather. Weather's pretty much the top of everyone's list that moves here. Cost of living, a lower cost of living is usually a big factor, and then just kind of a general lifestyle change, which cost of living and weather are both big factors in that lifestyle. But this has been happening for generations. So my in-laws, who are proud, born and raised Floridians, I was gonna make up the word for tampons. I don't like tampons. Anyway, born and raised here in the Tampa area, their parents were not born and raised here. My father-in-law's parents were born and raised in the Northeast in Connecticut, and his parents immigrated from Greece. So people like to think they're locals, but everybody came from somewhere. And just like any place that people love, whenever somebody moves there, they start telling their family and friends, hey, you guys should move here too. I was actually having lunch with a friend, Bill, who's from Philadelphia, and he is like number 11 or 12 of his friend group from Philadelphia that has moved down to the St. Petersburg area. And they just keep moving because more and more of them move and they build this community down here. And they're able to replicate a lot of what they had somewhere else down here. It's super interesting how that happens. Family and friends draw people to an area for sure. But in the Florida versus New York conversation, cost of living is a very important part of that conversation. So not just housing being cheaper, taxes being cheaper, and then just the practical things of the toll roads are cheaper. Maybe you just don't have to make enough money so you can relax, have a more relaxed lifestyle, be with your family more, do the things you want more. And that's why cost of living, this blanket phrase, cost of living, is so important, because it doesn't just tell us how much we need, but it also tells us how hard we may have to work. And that's very important when you're looking at moving somewhere. Am I going to be just working paycheck to paycheck? Am I going to be house poor? You hear all of these kind of phrases, and you want to know, if you're moving from a place to a new place, how that's gonna feel. So that's why a lot of you are searching cost of living in Tampa, cost of living in Florida before you make the move. And I hope this adds some value to that search. Let's make a basic list of the things involved in cost of living. Number one is housing. Okay, housing is typically the biggest portion of your expenses, not necessarily the majority of them, hopefully not, but it is the biggest portion. It's something that you have to have, that you can't go typically one day without. You can miss meals. You can't really miss a house, miss a place to live. So food is next on the list. We got housing, we got food. I'm gonna run through them real quick. We got transportation, entertainment, healthcare, and taxes. Of course, this list could be pretty exhaustive, but these are the categories that we're going to talk about. So under housing, that's going to be your mortgage payment or your rent. Under food, that's going to be the groceries you buy for you and your whole family. I'm gonna put dining out somewhere else in these categories. Transportation, that's just gonna be what it costs for you to have a car, to insure it, to put fuel in it, to get to and from different places, but typically to get to and from work. Okay, entertainment is a flexible category, but we're gonna put dining out, we're gonna put any kind of hobbies, any kind of shopping, that's any shopping, really. Even if you have to buy clothes, let's just leave it in that category for now. Healthcare, another big category. This is health insurance if you have to pay for that, if your employer doesn't pay for it. This is any kind of premiums you have to pay for that. This is also like any kind of trips to the doctor that are outside of that coverage, and then any kind of medications they have to pay for. And then for taxes, a couple different kinds of taxes. We've got property taxes and we have income taxes. Property taxes only being applicable if you're paying a mortgage, if you're paying to own a property. Okay, but the premise of all this is Florida versus New York. So let's pick some cities. I was gonna do Tampa versus Manhattan. Doesn't really seem fair. Manhattan is one of the most expensive cities in the country. Not really fair. Also, a lot of people in Manhattan don't actually own homes. So not a fair comparison. I could do Tampa versus Brooklyn. We could do Tampa versus Newark. You know, maybe we're thinking a little bit outside of the city, an area that has some suburbs and has some city to it. Yeah, and I think Newark is a good option. The people that I know from Newark, they say that they are New York City. They're like, is it like the Statue of Liberty or something is in Newark? I don't know. I don't care that much either. But Newark, very much part of the city, but very much has some of its own attributes as well. So this graph is what I'm kind of using to compare these two places, and that starts with an overall index. So this is based out of 100. So if 100 is just like the median average for the whole country, Tampa is a little bit above that, 3.7% above that, and Newark is 22.8% above that. But the difference between those is a little over 15%. So overall, it costs about 15% more. You need to make 15% more money to live in Newark and live the same lifestyle as you would live in Tampa. Also, it's worth noting in this overall index, it's assuming that you're a homeowner, that you're not paying for childcare, and it's not including taxes because it can't include taxes. It wouldn't make sense in an index like this. Okay, next, food and groceries. This category is still based out of 100. Tampa is actually a little bit more expensive. So 103.7 versus 105.1. Just 1.4% more expensive in Tampa, but that's still pretty interesting. Food has become quite expensive down here. Okay, for housing, there's an index, but then there's also median costs. And these are kind of confusing because housing for the index, it's 114 out of 100 versus 94 out of 100. So that makes Newark 17% more expensive. But the median home cost in Newark is $385,000 and in Tampa is $381,000. And that's only a 1.2% difference. Super confusing the way that they broke that down. Based on the median home cost, they seem very comparable. All right, for utilities in Newark, it is 15% more expensive. Utilities being just the things to power your home. And we didn't really put that one on the other list, but it would go under housing. It would be part of your housing expenses, your utilities. Transportation, so this is your car payment, your car care, your fuel, your tolls, anything like that. And Newark is quite a bit more expensive on this one. It's 28% more expensive in Newark for transportation expenses based on this index. For healthcare, they're pretty even, with Newark being a little bit below the national average and Tampa just being barely over the national average, but about 1.3% more expensive in Tampa than in Newark. And then miscellaneous. Everything you could lump into this. This could be entertainment. This could be all kinds of things that you might imagine. This could be education. This could be all kinds of things. This is where Newark gets quite a bit more expensive, is in this just batch of other things. So in these miscellaneous expenses, Newark is 16% higher than Tampa. And of course, it's easy to look at a list like this and hear numbers like this and think, well, I would never spend that on miscellaneous. I wouldn't blow that kind of money. However you're thinking of it, this is how it breaks down for the average consumer in these areas. When I have clients moving from New Jersey or New York, typically the reasons are cost of living, weather, lifestyle. Cost of living, the main things are typically cheaper homes, no state income tax, and cheaper property tax. The weather is pretty self-explanatory. They want warm weather most of the time. And the lifestyle is pretty self-explanatory too. They want the warmer weather. Maybe they want more space. They want to be in the suburbs without being so far away from work like you might have to be in the New York City area. And overall, they just want the pressure removed of having to make so much money to pay for such expensive things. That's a big, big factor. They want to get out of the rat race a little bit. And if you are thinking about that kind of move, you want to get out of the rat race, you want to make the move down to Florida, we would love to help you. Give us a call, text, or email anytime. One of my uncles says this thing, one of my wife's uncles says this thing about Florida. He says Florida is upside down. You kind of draw a line right north of Tampa, right north of Orlando. As you go north, you go into the south. And as you go south, it feels like New York because there are so many New Yorkers down here. And I like for you guys to move here. It's fun. Give us a call. Thanks for coming by.